Hey guys, how's it going? Yuri here. Just in the backyard today. I wanted to take this moment to talk to you about kind of expanding upon some of the stuff we talked about in the Warrior training report. So hopefully you've read through that, hopefully you enjoyed it and got some really cool training insights from that. Now I'm going to go into further detail with this video about some of the concepts we talked about in that report. And specifically I want to talk about four things. I want to talk about fat loss, cardio endurance, strength endurance, and strength. Now hopefully you can see this whiteboard okay. And I want to show you how they're all interrelated and why that's important. So first of all, if your goal is to burn fat, get stronger, get leaner, get in the best shape of your life, you know, in terms of just feeling really fit in really any aspect, whether you're training for an adventure race or whether you just want to feel really fit in sport or every day, this stuff is really important to grasp. I'm going to make it very easy for you, don't worry. Okay, so let's talk about fat loss. One of the most common goals most people have is to lose or burn fat. We all should be burning fat because we don't want excess body fat. It's obviously correlated with all disease and all that bad stuff. So here's what we want to look at. When you're training for fat loss, what are the variables that you need to be looking at? Right? Well, with any workout, we have weight, sets, rests, frequency, and those different types of variables. Okay, so I'm going to break this down very simply for you so you understand this. When we're talking about fat loss, okay, what we want to be looking at in terms of weight, you have two options. You either want to go pretty heavy or you don't have to go heavy at all. It's kind of two ends of the opposites, kind of two opposite ends of the spectrum. I'll show you why that matters in a second, but we'll come back to that in a sec. The two more important things when it comes to fat loss are the reps or duration and the amount of rest. As you remember in the report, we talked about how reducing the amount of rest or recovery between exercises, between sets, is probably the most important variable to help you burn fat and get fitter. Now, specifically when we're talking about fat loss, the idea here is that you need to be able to get your body up to an intensity whereby you're spending more of your time closer to your maximum heart rates. Okay, and that is what's going to elicit a maximum fat burning response, whether it be during the workout and after the workout. Okay, because generally the more intense you work out, the more calories you burn during the workout and the more calories you burn after the workout. That's the phenomenon known as EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which basically means how much energy your body needs to come back to rest. Okay, so if you don't work out at a high intensity, you're not going to be burning much during the workout or after the workout. So the key here is with fat loss is think about intensity. That's very important. And the best way to do that is by decreasing the rest you have between exercises. I gave you that example in the report of some really basic body weight exercises, push-ups, plank, bodyweight squats. You know, without any weights, if you reduce the amount of recovery time between each of those, you naturally increase the intensity, okay? So that's the first, probably the most important thing. The second thing is the reps and duration. Again, let's look at bodyweight exercises. Doing 10 seconds of push-ups, well, that's not going to really challenge you, you know, really dramatically. Doing 1 minute of push-ups is going to be a little more challenging, right? Doing 1.5 or 2 minutes of push-ups straight is going to be darn tough. Okay, so why does reps and duration matter? Well, again, it's all about intensity. The longer you work out with a given load, okay, the longer you impose that stress upon your body, you increase the intensity. And when we're talking about increasing the intensity, again, we're talking about burning fat. So with the reps and duration, I need you to make this distinction. We're not talking about those aerobics classes where we had 2-pound weights doing bicep curls like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about using high reps and high duration within a proper kind of training program setup, but using it smartly with proper weights or body weight exercises. Okay? You're better off doing body weight exercises than you are picking up 2.5-pound dumbbells, because when in life are you going to be picking up 2 pounds? Very rarely, right? It's going to be, you know, grocery bags, kids, they're heavier than 2.5 pounds, right? So you need to be stressing those muscles, and that's when it comes to weight, you have two options. You can go body weight, which is, I'm gonna classify weight as in terms of the lower end being body weight, which is really no load, but essentially you're still lifting your own body weight, so that is heavier than lifting a 2.5-pound dumbbell. So on the lower end, we have body weights, which is awesome if you structure properly with reps, duration, and rest. And on the other end, you have using higher weights, heavier weights, and this is what I'm a huge fan of. And what's really, if you're looking to get a lean, like definition, right? So you're talking about like, you know, visual definition, you need to be lifting heavy weights, okay? Because you're not going to get that. You will get that by body weights to some degree, but by lifting heavier weights, what that does is two things. First of all, it naturally increases the intensity, because the heavier the weight, the more motor units, the more muscle fibers you involved in that activity, right? More muscle is required to lift 50 pounds than it is to 10 pounds. So when your body requires more muscle to work, it naturally needs more oxygen to provide that energy. And because that all happens, you burn more calories. Does that make sense? So when we're talking about fat loss, we're talking about either going with heavy weights, going for, you know, higher reps generally. I'm not talking about the heavier the weight you lift, you're obviously not going to be able to do that many reps. But the idea is that if you can use all these variables, and sometimes it's, you know, it's easier to have me kind of sequence this stuff for you so you don't have to think about it. But I want to give you the understanding, the rationale behind this stuff. The heavier the weight, the lower the reps have to be. Okay, you can't lift your heaviest weight for more than a couple reps versus a lower weight, which you can do for 20, 30 reps. Okay, so you need to be able to work these different variables in, and generally the higher the weight, the more effective it's going to be, because you are increasing the intensity, you decrease the rest between exercises, you increase the intensity even further. And if you can take at a given weight, if you can up those reps a little bit more, you increase the intensity once again, because now you're pushing your body beyond what it's comfortable doing. So those are three important variables when it comes to fat loss. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, fat loss ties in directly with cardio endurance and strength endurance. That's why you have these arrows going back and forth. When it comes to, when we're talking about fat loss, we're essentially talking about cardio endurance and strength endurance that are byproducts of how you're training for fat loss. Okay, so let's use the example here of an adventure race. If you're training for an adventure race, cardio endurance and strength endurance are very important. Okay, you need to be able to run several miles uphill, downhill, through mud, all sorts of obstacles. That requires strength endurance. Okay, you need to be able to pull yourself up a wall. It might take you 30 seconds, a minute, or less or more. That requires strength in all those muscles over a certain amount of time, not just one lift. Okay, that'd be pure strength. But strength endurance is very important. And the way to kind of think about strength endurance is when you feel that burn. That's why I've put down the burn in quotes here, if you can even read that, hopefully. Anytime you experience muscle burn, think about that as strength endurance. So if you're working out in the gym, let's say you're doing pull-ups. You do one pull-up, that's all you can do. Well, you're not going to be tapping into strength endurance. However, if you do pull-ups consistently and you continue doing them over a minute, for instance, now we're talking about strength endurance, because you get that massive burn in the muscles, and that's lactic acid being produced, and that's very, very important for certain aspects of adventure races and different areas of life. Now, strength endurance, when you train strength endurance, again, because you're getting that burn, because you're stimulating a lot of motor units, a lot of muscle fibers to work together, that's also going to help in fat loss, because the more you work within that realm of strength, of lifting heavier weights for a longer period of time, you force your body to naturally increase its intensity. It's just the byproduct, so it has to happen. Now, as this all happens, as you're training for fat loss or strength endurance, you naturally start to get a cardio benefit. And this is very important to understand, where a lot of people believe that they have to do their strength or their weight training stuff and then hop on the cardio machine. That's not true at all. You can do that, and there's benefits to doing it properly, but I want you to understand that if you set up your workouts properly, you're going to get a fat loss effect, a cardio endurance effect, and a strength endurance effect all at the same time. Now, with the cardio endurance, anytime you're working out and you start huffing and puffing, whether that's on the treadmill or lifting weights, you are getting a cardio benefit. Okay, so whether that's doing a circuit, which involves squats, lunges, step-ups, body weight stuff, whatever it is, if you are huffing and puffing and sweating, you are getting a cardio endurance benefit. Because really all cardio endurance represents is your cardiovascular system's response to exercise. When you huff and puff, it means your heart is having to pump more often because it needs to get blood to the muscles to do their work. That's all it means. So whether you're on a bike, a treadmill, or actually doing a whole circuit of exercises, it's all the same thing. So realize that if you have this set up properly, you don't even have to do any cardio, the traditional like 1 hour cardio type stuff. Instead, you can do a really good circuit or superset type of workout where you're getting strength endurance benefits, massive fat loss benefits, and cardio benefits all at the same time. And that's called efficiency. That's called spending less time in the gym, less time working out, training smarter and getting better results. Now, you can achieve all three of these goals with one workout. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I love training people who are already fit, because I'm able to take them from a level of incredible fitness to levels they never even thought possible by setting up programs that tap into all of these variables. And you don't have to think about this kind of stuff. I've done it all for you, right? Now, the final component, which is really important, and I think is very, very often overlooked, is strength. Strength is the foundation. If you were to kind of create a pyramid of kind of important things, I believe strength should be at the base. You need to have a good base of strength. And when it comes to building strength, it's really the opposite of what we've been talking about. Strength requires lifting heavy weights for very few reps and giving yourself lots of rest in between sets. Here's why. Strength is all about nervous system / muscle fiber training, okay? So you're training your nervous system to recruit more motor units or more muscle fibers to lift heavier weights. You don't want to be huffing and puffing while you're doing a strength workout. You want to focus on being able to lift your maximum or close to your maximum, so you're at 100% every single set. So an example here might be doing squats, barbell squats, front squats, any type of squat. Instead of doing a fat loss workout where you might work for, you might be lifting 80% of your maximum one repetition max, here you might be lifting 90 to 95% of that. So you're only doing maybe 3 to 6 repetitions. That's all you can do at that given weight. The reps, again, 3 to 6 reps because you're going heavy, heavy weight. And the rest, maybe 2 to 3 to 4 minutes in between sets. So this is the type of workout that a lot of sprinters do. They go for a sprint or they do an Olympic lift, and then they sit around and chat for a couple minutes. And you think, well, what are they doing? They're wasting their time. Well, not really. Look at their bodies, look at their performance. That says everything. Strength is the foundation. Strength is what enables me to go from a sitting position to a standing position. If I don't have leg strength, I can't do that. A lot of elderly people don't have strength because they sit all the time. They don't train their muscles properly. So it's not about doing light aerobics classes, it's about going heavier weights, obviously with good form and proper technique. We can never forget that. But you need to attend to the strength, because let's turn back to adventure races for a second. Running up a hill, climbing over a wall, jumping, pulling yourself up, that's all strength. You need to have a strength foundation, and from there, you can build strength endurance. Right? If you can do squats with your heaviest possible weight for 2 to 3 reps, well, maybe you can drop that weight down, and that's going to help you build more strength endurance as you build out those reps. So I know this can get kind of technical and kind of scientific, but it's important to understand that for every goal you have, there's a difference, in some cases, very similar approach to how you train. And what I wanted to show you here is that the way I'm about to show you to get in the best shape of your life involves these 2 training methods: focusing on strength and focusing on high intensity workouts to address fat loss, cardio endurance, and strength endurance at the same time. Okay, so we've got 2 opposite ends of the spectrum: fat loss, cardio endurance, strength endurance, and pure strength. If you do things properly, you can hit both of those, but not in the same workout, but you can work them in together in a properly designed program. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you're going to want to stick around. I've got some more amazing stuff coming your way. And obviously on Tuesday, August 28th, which is just around the corner, we're going to be releasing a brand new workout system, which I know you're really going to enjoy if you're a fit individual and you want to take your fitness to the next level. If you want to challenge yourself mentally and physically and really surprise yourself. That's coming on Tuesday, so do not miss that. It's going to be incredible, and I've got some more cool stuff coming your way until then. So hopefully this has made some sense for you. If you have any questions, just let me know below, and we'll see you in the next training video.